Hi, folks. With Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for listening to this radio broadcast. No pictures. Lost my train of thought there. Live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about grasp on reality of our elites. Why do our elites seem to have no understanding of reality? Not that they're just a couple of degrees off center, but they're not even in the same universe as determine what they see as reality and what the rest of us do. Now, I'm sort of a bit of an outsider here because I end up having, my wife and I, we end up going to lunches and barbecues and gatherings with these elite people. Now, these are people where the poorest among them lives in a $4 million house and has $250,000 worth of motor vehicles in the driveway. So we're talking about people that never have to worry about money or even think about it. And there's one guy was telling me he had to spend $15,000 on veterinary bills for his dog, and he mentioned it. I thought it was a bit too much money. Now, $15,000, 99% of the population couldn't dream of affording for their veterinary bills on the dog. But it's not like it's a working dog in the Yukon or something. So these are quite wealthy people, very privileged, access to the upper reaches of government. They all went to expensive private schools, expensive Ivy League universities, we call them in Australia sandstone universities, but the Ivy League universities, and they have access to, they're part of business or public service or whatever cabals where they never have to think about having to sit down and interview for a job or anything like that at all. Everything's done through this informal networks of distributing benefits and goodies and well-paying jobs, prestigious jobs, and everything to their friends. And as one guy mentioned casually that he went to this expensive private school, very elite, and one of the guys there who he knew had been given a CEO's job at some big organization. And so he called and I said, look, I'm looking for something to do. Can you give me a nice job? Oh yeah, okay, now we'll find something for you. And again, he then gets a call saying he's the executive vice president of such and such on a very, very multi-million-dollar pay packet. So that's how things work. Is these people don't have to exist in reality. Now, reality for the rest of the population is that when you if you want to, I don't know, apply for a job or something, you have to look on the job boards, send your CV in, and then you get an interview and then more interviews and other, jumping through this or that hoop, and then you get offered the job or not, as the case may be. So there's that. If you want a loan, you have to go through the processes. So you're not able to use networks of well-connected people who just deliver these things to you. So anyway, this is the reality for people who the electricity bill comes in. Oh fuck, how am I going to pay it? That sort of thing. That's the reality for most people. 50% or more than 50% of the population in the West now take out food, iconic brands like McDonald's or something. See take out food now as a luxury. So that sort of indicates how far things have fallen in terms of purchasing power and quality of life and so on. So even the most prudent among us, unless they're on a high income, the most prudent among us has to struggle to get by to some extent, give up this to get that, and so on. So anyway, these are people who are separated from, and we're talking, I don't know, 2% max and even less than that, I think, in reality of the population, that are able to live without any regard to the realities of life. They've got an income that just immunizes them against really all the harsh financial realities of having. Now, if they're crazy people, they're mad gamblers or something, I'm sure they struggle as well. But they, other than those type of self-inflicted wounds, they're immunized. And this plays a big part to their living in an alternative reality. They don't have the realities that other people have to live with, and because of this, they're cocooned from it. So we go to the barbecue and these people, and they've got it's a very the tree-lined streets. There are no. Everybody you see, other than the workers that come in to be cleaners or gardeners or something like that. Other than that, everyone is Anglo-Saxon. There's a couple of very rich Chinese or Indians here or there, keeping very much to themselves. So they're not sort of there. There's not lots of brown or black people hanging around in the streets. Far from it. And there's it's a very, very nice tree-lined street suburb, water views, very expensive yachts in the in the harbour there or in the inlet and so on. So these people are cocooned from the money worries and the idea of the place being overrun with people from third world countries who have very different habits and attitudes and views. Now, if you've ever lived near or close to a place where you have this massive influx, we were renting an apartment in the inner city. We had some work in the city, and so we needed to be close or wanted to be close, and working pretty long hours on this project, and so we rented this apartment there, which was okay. But I don't know, some NGO group or the government or whatever rented the apartments right in the block of apartments next door, and I think they took over a number of apartments in there to house these third world peasant migrants that were coming at the time. And these when you talk about different lifestyle, they come from places where you don't go to bed until 2 a.m, but you don't get up until 11 or 12. You get up around midday, but so they're playing music and having very loud discussions, and they come from cultures where that if you speak softly or whisper means you're conspiring against your neighbor. So everyone talks very loudly so everyone can hear them, because that means then they're not conspiring. It's just a cultural thing. So the loud music and people talking loudly at 2 a.m. Also, they want to prepare their food in the same way they did in the rural village. So they get these chopping boards and they put them in the middle of the floor, and they get the machete or and they're chopping up all the chicken and whatever else. They also have they get live animals and like a live chicken and chop them up. So you get this terrified squawking and screaming from live animals being killed and chopped to pieces. Starting trying to, they don't understand to use the oven, so they start a fire in the middle of the lounge room floor, and the fire brigade are coming and it's smoke billowing at it. All these sorts of things going on. They just hang around in the area. They defecate and urinate in the street. There was a park nearby, and they just arrive en masse and take over the whole park, and effectively won't let anyone else in. That this park is their property while they're there, and you're not allowed to come into the park. And there was right in the corner of the park, there was a gym that I used to use, outdoor gym. I used to use, and if I came along to walk towards it to start using it, a bunch of them would run over to the gym equipment, and they would all sit on all the seats, so I couldn't use it, and stare menacingly at me until I left. Now, it got so egregious, I actually called the police. Said, hey, do you know what's going on? But the police wouldn't touch it. It was race relations. They weren't accused of being racists or Nazis or something, so the police wouldn't touch it. And did these people actually pull a bazooka on you and fire it in your direction? Nothing we can do. So anyway, that was it. So when you look at that, it comes hits you very hard that this is the sort of thing that's going on all over the West right now, and these sort of people are installed in. And there's no attempt to tell these people this is how you behave in this country. They don't have mandatory induction or mandatory language before they come here. They just arrive and they're dumped in this or that suburb, and that's it. And because they arrive in such numbers, they don't integrate. Why should they? There was one of the Pacific Islands. They speak a sort of pidgin English, I guess, but there was a whole bunch of them were stuck in one apartment block or one area, and again they roamed around in groups of like 50 or more, and they would think that they would, for example, they would say there's again in like a public area, they would decide that they wanted to use the toilets, so they would just go as a group of 50, just surround the toilet. These are our toilets. We own them now until we're good and ready. We're not moving on, but you can't use them. So a public toilet, is off bounds if they declare it to be so. I mean, by what right do they do that? And these are the sorts of behaviours. Now, this is an area. So we go into this barbecue where the house that the guy lives in, is worth over $6 million and so on. So now he's talking about how mass migration is a good thing, and anyone that opposes it must be Hitler. I mean, what else would they be? And why is it a good thing? Well, I don't know. It just is. It just is so. So what I'm getting at here is these people have no power of reasoning that they're applying to this. The Green New Deal is good because it's saving the planet, but is it? Is the planet actually in danger? Yeah. Well, as far as I know, yeah, it is, and it's on the news. Okay, well, so they don't even have any reasoning. They're not even questioning it. They're told that the planet's in danger, so it must be danger. Now this is not some low IQ moron out in the middle of nowhere. These are the elite. I mean, this guy is paid. He's a public servant, but he's paid over $500,000 a year. He will retire on a pension of $250,000 a year, and he lives in this again leafy suburb where there's only Anglo-Saxons inside. There's no issues with mass migration as far as he's concerned. So why should anyone else think it's a problem? So he's not even reasoning that the Green New Deal is hurting people and so on. I suppose so. For the poor people, maybe shrug of the shoulders. Hold on a minute, but it's being imposed on them. It's not a natural process. So it's nothing organic. It's being imposed on poor people who can't afford it. The people who are imposing it know these people can't afford it. So why would they do it? Why would they willfully inflict hardship? But they're saving the planet. But are they? Is the planet in danger? So you look at all the key issues: mass migration, the Green New Deal, LGBTQ, gender stuff and all that sort of thing. So, and they're on board with all of it, but don't understand none of it. There's no reasoning, there's no analysis or anything going on. Now, these are the brightest, best educated people. I'm just this one. I'm at one lunch here I'm thinking of, or a barbecue, and all of these people have been to the most expensive private schools in Australia. And then to all the sandstone Ivy League universities, and then have all been gifted jobs either in law and or the public service. And yet all of them have no reasoning power. I've heard that the people in the Biden, President Biden, I've heard the people in the Biden team are really, really cluey, really smart guys. Tony Blinken is a really smart guy. He's really smart. Victoria Nuland, what a genius. I've heard. So on what basis you say that? I've heard it. well, that's it. Like, have you listened to anything they've said? And they listen to sanitized versions of the news, so they've never seen the news where Biden, for example, slurs his speech or forgets his lines. That's all sanitized out of the news that they watch, and they're convinced that Trump's Hitler and da da da. But why? Oh, I've heard it. I've heard it. And then someone will say, the wife of someone said, oh, well, he's look at all the things he said about migrants. Well, what did he say? I don't know. So there's no reasoning. Now, this would be acceptable if it was some low IQ college kid studying gender studies or African American lesbian dance or something like that. Then you'd write it off. But these aren't. These are people in their 50s and 60s. They're at the very apex. They're the richest people in society. Had the best education, they have the best jobs, the best paid jobs, the most prestigious. They have access to, there's two people in the group that could pick up the phone and be put through to the prime minister or the state governor, and this, that's the level these guys are at, and in terms of connections. But when you look at their capacity to analyze and understand what's going on, it's almost zero. Now, I don't know how this is the case. They're meant to be one of the sort of things that I use to determine someone's intelligence is their ability to think through complex issues and to consider complexity. So, by my reckoning, these people, they're incapable of it. If they, for example, if they sat in front of me for a job interview, as a case in point, and I listened to them waffle on the way they do at these fucking barbecues, I would write them off as mentally deficient. I mean, you're just incapable of thinking through complex issues. You're just regurgitating absolute nonsense. I mean, you're just ideological flunkies and stooges. That would be the determination I would make. And when you get away from the political issues and start talking about anything at all, they have some very low level capacity for reasoning. And whether you want to go back to the methods of reasoning of Descartes or it's going back a bit too far, but whether you want to look at reasoning as an example or an indication of not simply intelligence as an IQ, but the ability to think through complex issues. Now, when I was younger, I wouldn't think through issues with the level of complexity that I would today, for example. But it's clear that these people have never really had to make decisions for which they would be accountable. This is, they're able to make ideological type decisions and then never be held accountable. They've never had to deal with reality in the things they do, the day-to-day lives, decisions they make, anything. Nothing there has made them accountable. Now, none of them have worked in a business in a competitive private sector company, and that does force you to deal with reality. You have to. You don't get an option. You can't go ideological there if you're in a competitive market. Now, there's not many sectors of the economy that are competitive in that sense anymore. So I suppose I could consider myself fortunate that I was seasoned and blooded in some of the most competitive areas of the economy and had to make decisions for which I had to bear the consequences. If I fucked up, they came after me. But and if I was made good, effective decisions or recovered from a bad decision quickly, then I was getting pats on the back as well. But this is a thing here where none of these people, I mean, not one, is able to reason through the issues, even to the extent where a number of these people saying, well, it's okay to rig an election if you get the outcome you want. It's okay to rig a jury if you get the outcome you want. So increasingly, these people are not only divorced from reality, but are actively and aggressively attempting to move all of our social interactions, political interactions, legal interactions, move them further away from reality, that is facts and evidence, and move them into just an ideological sort of twilight zone. And I think it's getting worse. But when the elites are so out of touch, and because, again, they don't have to deal with any of the realities, So they're able to live in this fantasy world and not realize that it is indeed a fantasy world. You've been a Tacitus today, your Pushback channel. Thank you for listening.